Sílvia.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. My name is Justina with BarcelonaME, and I'm sitting down together with Sílvia, and I think the best way to introduce you would be to say you're the art historian of the casa, of the house.
Yes.
You're a researcher, and you're the lucky one that gets to do these public
Wow,
interviews on camera.
It is.
It is a privilege, for sure.
Yeah.
From what I understand, you've been working here 29 years.
Well,
you've
more
done-
or less.
Okay, so we have the right person for the job in terms of somebody who knows absolutely everything, the in and out of this place, which is
Trying to do it.
La Pedrera, one of Gaudi's last, in fact, it was his last private commissioned building.
It's his
correct?
last building.
His last building.
And he's more unique,
Right.
you can say.
Because, you know, being the last, it encompasses all things that Gaudi learned along the way. So in a way, we're starting with the most difficult subject.
Sure.
Right? Because, and in fact, a lot of people come here to La Pedrera because it has a floor with all the plaster models of all of his works, thinking that they're going to just, okay, come to La Pedrera, see that floor, and get to know everything about Gaudi in one place. But you will soon discover that there's so much to Gaudi that you were just scratching the surface. So maybe, I think the best way to start is to talk about the original owners, because I think there's a story there. There was a woman, a widow, and two men. One was rich, the other one was noble. And it was this dance between them as the private commissioners and Gaudi and his collaborators that has resulted in this wonderful place that we call La Pedrera, Casa Milá. But we can start, how did it all originate?
Well, she was a widow, Rosario Sagimon,
Yeah.
a wealthy widow.
Yes.
She was married first with Josep Guardiola, not the football
Not
match.
the futbolista.
But he was an Indiano or Americano,
Americano,
that
yeah.
make that left her an abundance legacy.
Yeah.
So she was a widow, young widow in 1901, and she met Pere Milà.
Yeah, because she married the first husband. He was quite older than her, right?
Yeah, she was old. He was older. She
Yeah.
was very young. So in 1901 he died in Paris.
Yeah.
And she
left
had
her.
a lot of money to spend, and she met Pere Milà.
Right.
And Pere Milà was a politician,
He was,
businessman,
yeah.
no money, but a wealthy known member of the high society.
Right. And that was
So,
important.
Yeah. It
So
was,
money met.
money
title.
met. Yeah. So what happened is they married in 1905, and they needed a new house to live in and to rent the apartments.
Right.
Is what was usual at that time.
Yeah.
So in 1906, they asked Gaudí to build his residential building.
And Gaudi at that time was already known, a well-known artist.
A
and
well-known
architect.
artist,
Yeah.
a well-known creator.
Yeah.
And they knew they couldn't not intervene in the work because Gaudi used to work independent
Yeah.
from the commissions.
Right.
So the building he built is totally different, perhaps, as they wanted, although what the bourgeois wanted is to épater les bourgeois, have
Yeah.
something to shock in
the
the
shock
new
value.
avenue of the city.
Right.
So they reach it,
Yeah.
but they
yeah.
ruin economically.
Ah, okay.
So there were some problems with the financial.
Because the concept was to have this almost like a supporting business. They
Sure,
wanted to live
sure.
here and they wanted to rent out the apartments. So the concept was to have a residential place, rent it out, and then they could live off of it.
Yes, as all the Eixample, as
But
all this part of
This
the city.
one ruined them.
Yeah, at the
How?
beginning.
At the beginning.
At the beginning.
Okay.
You know, this is the highest building around. It was illegal in the construction volume, and the city council asked the family to pay a fine,
Right.
not to demolish the building. So from the first beginning, this was a special building.
Yeah. Maybe you
Yeah.
can talk a little bit about the
The most
natural
the most important things about
ingredients.
Gaudí is the tradition, the geometry.
Yeah. But when you say tradition,
Yeah,
what do you mean?
tradition architecture,
okay.
materials and ways to construct.
Okay.
he worked with that, with empirical methods
Yeah.
and nature inspiration to overpass all this.
And he makes his place incredibly útil, no?
Yeah. All is functional.
Everything is functional.
You have to know that Gaudi's architecture, although it seems it's a way of only imagination,
Right.
has a function in each form.
Yeah.
Each form
And
he
he really
uses,
thought about this,
yeah.
even until the doorknobs, no? Because I was looking
Everything.
at that. It's ergonomic design. It folds exactly into your hand.
Exactly.
It's wonderful.
Well, his work and his work and his life is full of contrasts.
Right.
His religious belief, his
Yeah.
innovation, his empirical method, his organic view of architecture.
Right.
So you know that he ended living in his studio.
So the religious symbols and the natural symbols were some of the most important that he actually placed into all of his obras, his works. Can you talk a little bit about how they're identified here at La Pedrera?
Well, talking about nature, he did not mimic nature.
Yeah.
He just looked at nature,
He saw it.
he saw it, he
Yeah.
detected and draw out functional ideas
Yes,
and aesthetic ideas,
claro.
textures, colors, all these
And
related.
especially lines,
Yeah,
because there's no corners in nature, right?
sure.
Nature doesn't like corners. That's usually man-made.
And this
Yeah.
mixed with the religious
Yes.
elements. This is
Right.
a civil building, although that Gaudi always put religious symbolic elements in his buildings.
Yeah,
On the facade, you can read the Ave Maria.
right.
Ave
That's
Maria,
a welcome to the Virgin Mary.
Yes, Dominus Tecum. So here on the roof, on the stairwells,
Yes.
up on the stairwells,
Yes.
the stairs from the attic to the roof,
Uh-huh.
there's always a cross.
Uh-huh.
It's not very special to see the cross from here.
Yeah.
But you have to look at that.
But he sneaks
will-
it in. He sneaks it in.
Yeah.
It was important to him.
Important because this building had to be built on a religious sculpture on the facade.
Okay.
In the middle of the facade, you will see up on the roof, up on the attic, an M for Mary,
Right.
and a rose related to Rosario.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so there was the idea to have the Virgin Mary there,
Right.
but well, we have two theories that the Mila family didn't like it at all, and so they didn't want to have a religious sculpture on the facade, or that during the Semana Trágica in 1909,
Yeah.
they decided they didn't want to have a religious symbol so important,
So obvious
so obvious.
that it would attract the
Yeah.
wrong attention.
Sure.
Yeah.
They were burning monasteries
Yeah, the Semana
and
Trágica was
church
exactly that was
So-
an anti-clerical
movement
movement at the time.
around the
Yeah.
city. So, if you look carefully at Gaudi's designs, you always will see nature inspiration, tradition, and
Really,
religious
religious
symbols.
symbols.
If you look carefully, when you visit Casa Milá-La Pedrera, you will see others that you have to discover by yourself.
And what about the warriors?
And the warriors are chimneys. Chimneys
chimneys,
from
yeah.
the central heating. But Gaudi mixture functionality with aesthetic.
Right.
You can see warriors. You can see warriors that inspire other artists.
So he wanted to put some guardians up top. That was the
This is
thinking,
the
no?
poetic way to see it. Because
Yeah.
a poet just bring a poem as the garden of the soldiers.
Yeah.
Because they keep us from worse things. So it's interesting when you visit the building and you look at these warriors or chimneys
Yeah.
that let Gaudi talk by himself. If you
Right.
see warriors, I see other things. And visitors can see whatever they want because Gaudi was always open to symbolic ideas.
Yeah. He wanted to surprise you. That shock value
Yes.
never left him, no?
Yes. There's nothing sure about my
About it.
architecture. You have to
Exactly.
look it carefully because you will see functionality
Yeah.
and singularity, uniqueness.
Right.
This is the
Right.
most incredible roof terrace in the world. But
Yeah.
it's an evolution of
All
all
of
his
his-
terraces.
Yeah.
The evolution of Palau Güell, the evolution of Casa Batlló, the evolution of his architecture. Because this is the last.
Yeah.
And not the best, but the most different and
Right.
singular.
Right.
That's why it was one of the first to be World Heritage
Sites
from UNESCO.
in Barcelona, no?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The first buildings to be World Heritage sites are Palau Güell, Casa Milá, and Parc Güell.
Okay.
Sagrada Familia was later,
It's incredible, no?
but
Because
not Sagrada Familia, only the crypt.
ah.
And because the building is under construction.
Ah, okay. So the
Only
regulation.
Gaudi's part.
Right.
Remember
Okay.
that. La Sagrada
Okay.
Familia is not a World Heritage Site.
Okay. I did want to go back to, because I think this is an interesting trivia. These warriors, George Lucas has these things called the stormtroopers in Star Wars. For those of you who, it's very likely that George Lucas was inspired by the guerreros of La Pedrera to design the stormtroopers in Star Wars. So for those of you who are into movies and movie buffs, and certainly into Star Wars, this might be the original place to look at.
Perhaps. We don't know exactly if he had visited the house during the 80s or he had read some books about Gaudi's works, but it seems to me also that it's very similar. Also, there's an homage in Sagrada Familia that Subirachs, the architect that designed one of the facades, done to Gaudí, having the Roman soldiers as the warriors.
And so I think you agree that today, more than ever, because Gaudí, in his time, he was famous and he was certainly very well respected and known, but he received also a lot of criticism of his work. But now it's almost like he's experiencing this renaissance. You know, his spirit is everybody talks about Gaudí in Barcelona. He's almost interchangeable. Gaudí is Barcelona in a way, no? And it's on the one hand it's wonderful, but we also wanted to send the message, no, that that there are so many other architectural gems in the city. And for example, one of his biggest collaborators, Jujol. I mean, you can do the Ruta de Jujol, and he's wonderful in his own right.
Yeah.
Maybe you can talk a little bit about who he worked with and the importance of their influence and their own artistic expression in their own right.
Yeah, you know, it's true, the Renaissance.
Yeah.
But I think it's because it's unique, it's singular,
He's
it's
just-
different.
and maybe because
people
now
want-
we're so into individuality
Yeah.
now. No, we're back into let's be unique, let's be different, let's
Yeah.
be individual,
Yeah.
because we went through a whole era of cultural socialism in Europe, you know, after
Yeah.
World War II, and it was all about the society as a whole. And now we're getting back to individualism, and so maybe that's why he speaks to that particular point of our cultural expression
you take the
now.
point,
no?
you take the point,
Yeah.
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 And Jujol, that is an unknown architect that worked with him here
Yes.
and in other works, was a young architect when he worked with
Right.
Gaudí. And he designed part of the building, although Gaudí always
Control.
controlled his project.
Yeah.
But he is unique also.
Right.
I recommend people understood
Yeah.
usual works by
Yeah.
seeing Gaudi's works also.
Yeah.
So the mixture of all of these creators is incredible.
And what did he do particularly here, Jujol?
Well, it was controlling the work, but what it said, it's about the wrought iron balconies.
Yes.
Gaudi designed one that are, and so he said, well, you have 36 more, just do it.
Just do it. Based on this, I give you the
Just
model.
do it, yeah.
Just do it.
Just do it. And also the plaster ceilings inside the apartments that are incredible, organic in
Yeah.
forms, and also with religious
Right.
ideas, and well, you have to come here to see all these special singularities. But Jujol is an architect that works day by day with Gaudí, and they fit each other.
Right, they worked well together.
Yeah.
And it continues to surprise La Pedrera, no? I think last time we met, and we did meet for a coffee before this, you talked about all of the words scattered everywhere, and that right now
we have
there's a
poems.
study.
Yeah.
There's
It's
a study
incredible because they are parts of poems
yeah,
of traditional poetry in Catalonia.
right.
The renaissance of the culture, at
Yeah.
that time there was a lot of culture, not only paintings, if not literature. So there are a lot of sentences
Right.
about when there's a poem, Oh Maria, always the Virgin Mary, no et sàpiga greu ser petitona, ho són les estrelles. Don't be shy to be small because there is also stars. Oh,
So he played.
yeah. And also forgive, and always related with tradition poems and religious. So
Right.
I don't want to tell you everything because you have to come.
Sílvia, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much for giving us the time and the opportunity to be here. It was quiet. It was before the visitors got here, so we really had a privileged setting and viewing. And we will look forward to many more talks maybe in the future, yeah?
Sure.
Over coffee,
It's
maybe
also
not
a
on
privilege.
camera.
It's also a privilege for me
Yeah.
and for all the visitors that has to come
Exactly.
to understand Gaudi's work,
Yes.
and of course Casa Milá-La Pedrera.
And seeing it through Sylvia's eyes is another thing too.